What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over 6 players Vegas is telling you to avoid. This is not our opinion. We're just relaying you the information. Let's get into it.
All right, the first player that Vegas is telling you to avoid for 2026 is Rashee Rice. And Rice is currently being drafted in the second round of drafts, but Vegas thinks very differently of Rice, as they have him only projected for 77 receptions for 849 yards and 6 touchdowns. As Rice ranked as a receiver in 19 at an ADP of only 38, which is an early 4th round pick, compared where he's going at the end of round 2 on average right now for ESPN, Underdog, and Sleeper. I think the reason for Vegas being much lower on Rice is because they are expecting a slower start to the season. After missing a bunch of the offseason because of his 30-day jail stint and also having to rehab his knee that he recently got surgery on in jail, I don't think that bodes well for your early season success. And also Vegas expects them to be a little more run heavy now, with only projecting Mahomes for a little over 3,700 passing yards coming off the ACL tear. And also there is a new offensive change now with Eric Bieniemy, and they had Matt Nagy a couple seasons before, so he is going much lower on Vegas compared to where he's going on ESPN and all the other platforms right now.
Yeah, the reason why I think they're also lower is just there's a lot of change in the offense. Brought on Kenneth Walker, Mahomes coming off an ACL, and a new play caller. I mean, I'm sure he will still get used like he used to, but maybe Vegas is onto something with this. So I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes around wide receiver 19.
Especially the whole Chiefs offense. Their Vegas as a whole is low on this offense, and there's obviously a reason for that. But, yeah.
All right, the second player Vegas is telling you to avoid for 2026 is Jadarian Price.
And now with Price, he's a very difficult player here as he's going in the 5th round of most drafts. But according to Vegas, they have the odds stacked against him. They only have him going for 750 yards and 6.7 TDs with only around 19 catches. He's projected to finish as the RB31 according to these sports books. But it's also the unexpected role here for Price, as I don't think he has much pass catching upside at all, and neither does Vegas. He only caught 15 catches in 3 college seasons. And now with the running back, I heard the other day about they're trying to use all 3 running backs, George Holani, Emmanuel Wilson, and as well as Jadarian Price. I know they spent the 1st round pick on him, but as we've seen in the past, it takes a while for them to really get used to the NFL, and it takes a while for these coaches to put them in the roles that we're seeing now with the 1st round running backs like Bijan, Gibbs. I'm not comparing him to one of them, but it took them about a year to get going.
Yeah, Price really reminds me more of like Hampton last year, where before Najee's injury, they were really him and Najee were really going to be in like a committee. It looked like it was going to be, and I know Charbonnet's out for their foreseeable future, but maybe Vegas is predicting that Charbonnet comes back quicker than we all think, and then also maybe they're going to be in a 3-man committee with George Holani and the Packers backup running back from Emmanuel Wilson from last year too. So yeah, there's just a lot of unexpectedness so far. It's also still before training camp, so we're not too sure how it's going to play out when the season starts.
Because if Vegas is still projecting Charbonnet, even off the ACL, whether he comes back week 12, week 11, 311 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he's definitely going to be a factor at some point. And even drafting Jadarian Price can, if you make the playoffs, let's say, he could be a non-factor down the road for you in the playoffs. That's also something to think about.
Yeah, and also nowadays in the NFL, most of these backfields are committees. And Jadarian Price was drafted to be that head of the committee, but he's still going to be in a shared backfield with a bunch of solid, good backs.
I mean, as time goes on, sure, we could talk about it in a year or two, and Price will probably be a workhorse bell cow running back, but he's 22 years old, he's still young, and now they have Charbonnet, and I think this is the last year of Charbonnet's contract, but that's for the future.
Yeah, and Charbonnet's whole deal is that he's a big back. He's like bruiser. He's going to get those goal line touches when he's back, I believe. So if Price isn't getting receptions, I think towards the end of the year, it really could be a bad outing from Price to end the season.
He could wind up being a handcuff towards the end of the season, which can screw a lot of playoff teams, and that's why he can go further down than 31 if he starts playing like this towards the end of the season. But it's early, and we'll figure it out, and hopefully Vegas is on track with this.
Okay, the third player Vegas is telling you to avoid for 2026 is Kenneth Walker.
So Kenneth Walker, Vegas is projecting him as the RB15, which is pretty low compared to everyone's rankings and consensus rankings. As we see his ADP on Sleeper on Underdog, 13 and 15.7, which those are factor in receivers too. So he's getting drafted around as the RB7, RB7, 8, in that like 6 to 10 range, I would say. He's projected for 925 yards, around 7-8 touchdowns, 37 receptions, 270 receiving yards. And the reason why he's so low in Vegas, I would predict, is because Vegas is also, they don't really predict touchdowns well, and I feel like what Kenneth Walker can make him get his fantasy points is going to be the touchdowns in this Chiefs offense. He's also not the greatest receiving back, which limits that PPR upside, which I can definitely see. We also know that he's always in a backfield, a shared backfield, which maybe they could predict with someone in that Chiefs backfield, but it's really just him in there. But you never know. Also, his injury history. He has a really tough injury history, and that definitely has his stats lower projected on Vegas.
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing, definitely, why it's projected lower for Vegas is just injuries. That's really the main thing. I wouldn't see any other reason other than that. So I think Vegas is definitely predicting he's going to miss a couple games here and there. And yeah, that does suck because Kenneth Walker, I mean, we know he's been hurt, I mean, basically every year of his career, and they don't really have a good handcuff for you to keep anyways. So if he does get hurt, it kind of screws you.
See, I like taking him above the RB15, obviously. He's around what I said before, our 6 to 10 range. The 7 to 8 touchdowns that they project it's not doing him any justice. I feel like he can definitely clear 10 to 12 touchdowns. But yeah, there's going to be risk. They're going to put that risk on the sports books. They're not going to give you those super tough lines, super easy lines. So it's if he gets injured, that he's definitely not hitting 925 yards.
Yeah, health for Kenneth Walker, and this is probably the first time he's got the backfield to himself.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you said, the competition isn't the best. I'm sure they will get some run, but we've never seen Kenneth Walker be fully healthy in a very long time, and that's clearly what they think here. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to agree with them here. I'm not the highest on Kenneth Walker myself, and I think Vegas has it right around 15, which is completely right in my opinion.
Continuing on, the fourth player Vegas is telling you to avoid is Brian Thomas Jr. And BTJ is on average currently being drafted as the receiver 36 on Underdog, ESPN, and Sleeper. Vegas, though, is BTJ ranked as the receiver 45 and only projected him for 59 receptions for 700 yards and 4.5 touchdowns. BTJ is currently going as an early 7th round pick right now in drafts, but Vegas actually projects both Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers to both finish higher than BTJ, as they have Washington ranked as a receiver 34 and Myers ranked as their receiver 39. So Vegas is telling you to skip on BTJ in round 7 and wait to get one of Washington or Myers later on in drafts. I know Myers his ADP on Underdog is like 103. I know Washington's much closer to him though. But Vegas doesn't expect the Jaguars offense to get back to what they were doing with BTJ in his rookie season when he was the number 1 alpha. I think they expect it to be more like how it was last year, and it's going to be very volatile, and they're all going to be used equally between all three of these receivers here. All right, the fifth player that Vegas is telling you to avoid for 2026 is Makai Lemon.
And now Makai Lemon coming into Philly, he's got big shoes to fill as he's the replacement for A.J. Brown. But according to Vegas Sportsbooks, they only got him here at 60 receptions, 650 yards, and 5 touchdowns as they project him to finish out as the wide receiver 48. The problem here in Philly's offense is it's projected to be very run-heavy, which could limit a lot of the passing game usage for Lemon. There's a lot of uncertainty with the touchdown upside, as there's a lot of mouths to feed this offense, such as Goddard, Saquon, and Devontae Smith. As we saw last year, Goddard had a bunch of touchdowns. I'm sure that obviously goes down this year, but they're expecting a big year out of Saquon and Devontae Smith, and Hurts every year is getting worse as a passer, which is clearly put into here as Vegas. He's getting priced like a top 30 wide receiver around guys that are just better than him. And I kind of like that Vegas is low on him because it makes a lot of sense here. And now he's an easy fade for me, and Sportsbooks back this up with the ADP at 88.6. That's extremely high for a guy that's expected to finish around wide receiver 48.
Yeah, last year, Devontae Smith, he only averaged 11.8 points per game in fantasy, finishing as the receiver 31, and he only had 6 targets per game. And I think Smith is definitely, at least as of right now, a way better receiver than Makai Lemon is coming into his rookie year, Makai. So I just don't think that he's going to be a great option for your team, really, at least for his rookie year. So I just don't see how he's going to be when Smith last year was receiver 2 for this offense, and he did not look that great. He was not even a receiver 2, I'd say, for fantasy last year. And he only had 24% target share, and I don't see Makai Lemon getting any higher than that, if even that, this year.
And I also think without AJ Brown, this offense is completely different. I might be big on him. I'm a big AJ Brown guy. I think he's one of the best receivers in football. But this offense is going to be significantly worse, and that ultimately hurts the whole entire offense. As 5 touchdowns is pretty reasonable for Makai Lemon, and I'm expecting a mid-season out of him. Sure, it's his rookie season. He'll probably get better down the road, but for me, it's an easy avoid. Easy avoid, and I agree right with Vegas.
All right, the last player that Vegas is telling you to avoid for 2026 is Jaxson Dart.
So Jaxson Dart in 2026 is projected for 3,150 passing yards, 19.8 passing touchdowns in that 20 range, 440 rushing yards, which is a pretty low amount. I would consider for a very run heavy Dart himself. But I believe the reason why he's so low compared to his ADP on all these platforms is around like the quarterback 8 to 10, and Vegas he's being drafted as the quarterback 16 overall. It's uncertain, with Malik Neighbors on injury. You never know what's going to happen with him. Is he going to come back week 1? Will he be back week 5? I think that if the rushing stays elite, he will definitely return that quarterback 16 and definitely be above that in the 8 to 10 range where he's being drafted in the fantasy drafts, So there's always these sophomore slumps too. You never know. But I believe that he's going to finish higher than 16th overall for sure. But just what Vegas is telling you.
Yeah, I think they're taking in that there's going to be a lack of weapons. So at least start the season with this offense. I mean, the receiver one's going to be Darnell Mooney. So I really just think it's going to be a tough situation to at least start the year. I mean, I know last year, though, even though with those weaker weapons, he had no Neighbors. I mean, Wandale is better than what they got now. But still, I mean, he was pretty solid last year with those, I'd say, pretty bad receiving room and running back room window Scatabo last year, too. So, I mean, I kind of don't agree with this one from Vegas. I do think he should be higher, but I could see him be going this low, with the concussion stuff and all.
And I also feel like they're accounting for him to run a lot less. 441 rushing yards is a little low for Dart, and 5.8 touchdowns. That is extremely low. Last year he had 487 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns, and he's not that wasn't 17 games started. That was around 14, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 14, but that's extremely low. They're expecting him to run a lot less and a lot less at the goal line. As we saw, there's a lot of times where Dart ran around the goal line and took a lot of hits. Now, I guess with the fully healthy Scatabo, they're expecting him to run a lot less, and they got to keep him healthy. So, should be interesting to see what they do. But quarterback 16, in a way, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. But I could also see Dart going way past this.
Yes,
top 8.
His upside is top 5 for sure. But I understand the risk. The injury risk is there. If he runs a lot, there's definitely a higher chance he's going to get hurt. He has the history of him getting a concussion, so that definitely will knock him off for a few weeks if he gets concussed again. So,
and sometimes the concussion protocol has taken they've gone a lot, 2 weeks even. And back to what I was saying, I looked it up. Dart had 12 starts and eclipsed about 500 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. They are extremely low for a 17-game season on Dart's rushing. Way too low.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Those were 6 players that Las Vegas and sportsbooks are extremely low on in 2026. Vegas knows more than us, so these projections probably will be right compared to our predictions. But there it is. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit all our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and we'll see you in the next one.